Hello, how's it going? Welcome back to mentfx, and in this episode, I just wanted to take a small, quick look at a trade we caught today in the group that was based off of course, a daily level, an interesting POI, everything that we've spoken about so far. Again, check out the previous videos if you haven't done that. Check out the mentorship if you want to know more, so on and so forth. Doesn't really matter. Let's kind of jump into this. So what's interesting is, as we look at this markup right here, so this is gold. Again, I've taken off all the analysis just for a second, but if you just take a look at this gold markup, right, and I told you that today I was able to get into a trade and make a good 1-5 that I fully locked in as profit, right? Where would you potentially think I got involved in this trade, right? So just looking at it, try to take a look, like where could it have been? Now, most likely, right, I'm not saying that all of you did, but most likely a lot of you are probably looking for some potential buy setups that you might have found in here that might have gotten us some 5RR, right? Maybe some kind of order block in here that took us up here, something like that. Maybe something down here, maybe some accumulation here that took us up for that 5RR. But in reality, what's interesting is that 5RR was actually from right there, this little area right here. Okay, let's ignore this line we have up here because we're watching that for the future. But all of the 5RR that I made today, that could have been 5% on your account, or if you risk less than 2.5% on your account, or whatever it is that you risked on it, right? So again, we're not going to talk about how much exactly we made. What we're going to talk about is how the RR was brought to us. And this area right here, this middle of pretty much no man's land for no reason, right? We were able to catch a nice, perfect 5RR trade. Now, here's the proof of that. Again, I think I was in the shower when I sent this out because I was just looking at my phone, and I entered on this and then sent the image out because it happened really quickly. It was a minute chart, right? Now, why did we sell here, and how did we go about taking this trade with our RR in mind, right? So what happened is, I believe, as everybody most likely knows, so we'll just go to the daily really quick. As everybody pretty much knows, we have this area of inefficiency right here, right? We're watching that to come up to. Again, we're not going to get too deep into everything that we see here and everything that we're expecting. All we're going to do is kind of talk about the price action and how we were able to get in on this, make 5%, right? Or 5RR, and do it within that area right here, right? When all of you might have thought we were looking for those buys as we approach those areas, but in reality, right, sometimes just being able to understand the fractal nature of the market, even when it might be very bullish, can help you basically secure a good 5RR in a day, right? Again, we secured another 8RR on GU just earlier, but we're not gonna review that right now. We're gonna review this instead, right? So this is just kind of putting some of this concepts together. So again, there's Wyckoff occurring here. There's a lot of things occurring. There's a lot of order blocks that are forming, OB 2.0s that are forming, right? And we're getting involved on those as we're moving up, and we're also keeping this area in mind as we're moving towards it. So that's a daily area, and we had the open, and we can basically have a 50% marked up if we really wanted to, but the open is what we really had marked up, right? So as price approached that area, really it approached it really slowly. So we can kind of replay this a little bit. Again, it already happened, but that doesn't mean that we can't take a look at how this occurred. So I was on the 1 minute chart, and again, I was in the shower watching this, and price was approaching. So let's delete this right here. Actually, no, we can't, because we need to see this. So again, I'm just going to leave it out here, but price was approaching this area and never really hit it, right? So at this point, I was still just watching it. I had an alert set right here. So I had just an alert and had nothing else, right? I wasn't part of this. And then we finally had that play right into that area, right? Now, as we had that play into it, what was I waiting for, right? I was looking for that Wyckoff. We had that buying climax, the AR, the ST, the sign of weakness that came just below this, right? We had that up thrust that liquidated this ST, making intermediary term liquidity between basically these highs, and this high, right? So there's a lot of people watching this for the trend line that forms here, then the trend line that forms here, now the trend line that's forming here, right? So again, that this, again, and now people are starting to enter shorts as you're seeing this break down. So even smart money might be looking at some kind of breaks of structure here, some kind of order block formation, right? This move through liquidity, this move away, looking to be involved for sells here, right? Potentially they even make some money. Nope, they don't. They get liquidated very quickly, right? The trend line gets broken. If they were looking at this as a trend line, again, there's not 3 touches. I'm not going to get too in depth on how retail is looking at this, potentially looking for buys. That liquidation occurs, and as you can see, it does come just a little bit higher than that high, right? So if we just drag this across, there it is. That's the liquidation of that. So we look at that as a UTAD, right? We had this break down and price down, and now we were looking at this order block here, right? So this was a potential entry you could have already been in, right? So that's the first one we looked at, and then you had this re-breakdown in price. And now after this re-breakdown in price occurred, and then came, so we go one back here. Here we go. So again, remember, this is that one tiny area you saw in the hourly, but look how much price action is available to you here, right? And notice how we didn't have to look at all the, hopefully this stops lagging real soon and we can see some of our charts, but hopefully you guys can see how we didn't use what's on the left of the chart, even though we started to see potential Wyckoff unfold and potential breaks of structure and potential inefficiency creations and order block creations, because we have an area that we want met in our minds already. So why would you get involved because you're seeing something in an area that you're not expecting something to occur in, right? That's one of the biggest problems that retail face, and that's one of the biggest problems even people in smart money face, because after they learn all these smart money concepts, so I'm talking over this just loading in the background, but here, maybe we can cancel it. I don't really want to cancel it, but alright, so we have to make a little pause there because the internet went out and the charts kind of got thrown off. But as you guys can see, we had the schematic outplay in the area we were looking at. Again, we can be expecting that price is most likely going to come and fill higher areas of inefficiency here, maybe in the half, right? Maybe even more, and maybe even break out through, because this is a huge area, right? But this is just the open of it, and we're watching on a lower time frame. So this was all today, and we had this price action unfold. We had the UT, the UTAD that liquidated all these positions in here, and then we finally had the breakdown. So at this point, you could have already been involved here, right? Or you could have waited, and that's what we did. So we waited. Again, this was your first mitigation of that order block that you could have been looking at for potential entries to the downside, right? But instead, we waited for more impulse to come into the market to show us that smart money, if there was smart money operating here, wanted to take price lower. Again, you can look at the volume and study it here a bit, but as you can see, this is what we spoke about in the volume video before. Here's that transfer of buy orders into sell orders, again, even if it's short term, right? And here's that impulse that is met with higher increasing volume. So you know that most likely the directional institutional bias would now be to the downside, even though we're on a 1 minute chart, because it's based off of what they're doing from a long time ago on a daily, which is starting to mitigate tons of positions that exist within this area, right? And this is going to be the first one of those mitigations. And of course, we're going to have more mitigations as we make our way up in here, and of course, even higher. However, right now, we're not interested in that because we're seeing price unfold and give us schematics that we can be potentially interested in right here. So as we have this, now we can reset and set this position again. Again, this is existing right at the open of this order block, as you can see. The one right in here, that blue one. So again, we're not going to look too far into it, but here's your top to bottom right there, right? So that's where your stop loss is, right above that high, just like an order block should be, because we're expecting the mitigation of that area in the form of either another test or an LPS, right? So that's just how a normal schematic unfolds. And again, as we have price play out, notice it creates this low, right? Price then comes even lower and creates this low. So still we're expecting this retrace, right? But this is just showing us where our first potential target can be for either partials or for the consolidation of the trade, right? So as price finally starts to retrace and we get this low, we get tapped right into the position at this order block. Again, you might have gone into it and maybe looked for the liquidation of this little high here before you got involved. So maybe you got involved a little bit higher. Maybe price even goes higher here. I'm not sure, right? But at this point, we got involved in this trade looking for those partials at, as you can tell, 1 to 4.78, right? And then you can look for even lower prices potentially at some order blocks here and the order blocks here, right? Because those are all operating as order blocks on the 1 minute, right? Everything is fractal. We're going to see prices the same way, right? We have this imbalance right here, which we can maybe expect to be filled. And notice how we printed this low right above this other low, right? So again, what are we doing? We're incentivizing buyers in the market. That way, when we take them out, we can start loading up on positions potentially to keep going higher and mitigating more of those older orders within that daily block, right? So price is most likely going to spend a lot of time up within this area within this week, right? Before we finally get that break or that break up. We can't be 100% sure what we're going to get yet. Most likely lower prices, but either way, we can still be participants in this market based on important areas that we're expecting prices to reject from. So we come into this order block, and that's again that order block 2.0 or the LPSY of the schematic. Again, you don't have to use the schematic, but that's what we like to use as the confirmation, especially in our mentorship. And from there, we start getting lower prices. Now, partials get met, I think, relatively quickly. Let's just play price through here, right? So partials come and get met right here, and that's at 1 to 4. This is where I actually collapsed my trade because I was just looking for the liquidity right below this low to be taken out. I think we were looking at a little bit lower, just below that low, right? So that was just that 1 to 5 that we wanted. But this is a fine one, the 4.71, same thing, right? And then you can see how price plays out as it comes lower to fill in that order block that we just looked at, right? So here you go. Let's just make this the OB. There you go. You could have potentially looked at this area for buys on even a lower time frame. We're not going to get into that right now. That's something we're going to get into in the mentorship. We actually come down and liquidate this area. So maybe if you got involved here, it would have been pretty bad for you, but we weren't really watching this area. This is the trade we wanted to take. And again, if you technically let this run to the bottom or partialed out or taken your take profit at the order block here or the fill of the imbalance, that would have been easy 1 to 6.46 locked in. Or if you came even lower, it came as much as a 1 to 7.65. But again, we're not going to bullshit you guys. We ended it right there at that low, just like we were aiming for, right? And then price, I believe, took off as New York opened. And now it's just been ranging and consolidating within this area, right? Doing what? Starting to, again, unload tons of trades, right? We're getting equal highs getting created in the market, getting them liquidated, the moves down, potentially looking for sells, I don't know, here, right, from some Wyckoff. Again, we don't really, yeah, so that, I guess that worked out okay. But we're not looking at this right now. The point of this video is to show you guys how we're using these concepts to, again, trade, and how sometimes if your POI does not get touched or your point of interest or where you want to see price rejection, you don't have to chase price as it starts to fall, because it's usually doing this to create what? Liquidity in the form of trend line, even you can see it here, to liquidate it before giving you that setup that you might actually want to expect. So even though this is a 1 minute time frame, you guys know that gold moves a lot, so there's a lot of pips to be caught in here, and we still were able to catch a 1 to 5 on something that on a higher time frame, so let's delete all that, on a higher time frame looks like you'd never be able to find an actual trade there, right? So again, if we just went like this and I asked you, you know, where did we catch that 1 to 5 today? A lot of you might have thought, you know, maybe on the buys here, maybe even in the buys off of this wick, which again, we know on a lower time frame is an order block off the half, right, to go higher. But in reality, it was this tiny little rejection right here, right? So the point of this is just to understand that markets are fractal and you can expect a lot of things on different time frames, and you can be involved in them if you understand how to properly partial yourself out and get involved. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like if you did, leave a dislike if you didn't, but let me know why, and I'll see you guys next week.